Mama Wanjiku seemed like the perfect mother-in-law, kind, helpful, always there when needed. But hidden in her bedroom drawer was a collection of letters that revealed the calculated destruction of 3 marriages. What drove a woman to systematically destroy her own son's happiness? In the bustling city of Nairobi, where modern life meets ancient traditions, there lived a woman known to everyone as Mama Wanjiku. She was respected in her community, known for her generous heart and wisdom. Every Sunday after church service at the local Anglican congregation, neighbors would gather around her compound to seek advice on family matters. Her 3 sons, Baraka, Django, and Faraji, were the pride of the neighborhood. All successful, all handsome, all unmarried despite being in their 30s. Mama Wanjiku, the church women would say, "Your sons need wives."
When will you find them good African women to settle down with?
Mama Wanjiku would smile warmly, adjusting her colorful head wrap. My daughter's God's timing is perfect. When the right women come along, I will welcome them with open arms. I want daughters-in-law who will respect our traditions and love my sons truly. The community believed her completely. After all, Mama Wanjiku was known for her kindness to everyone, especially young women. She would often invite struggling girls from the village to stay in her large family compound, helping them find jobs in the city. She had a reputation for being the mother-in-law every woman would dream of having. The first son to fall in love was Baraka, the eldest. He worked as an engineer for a construction company and had always been serious about his career. But when he met Asha at a wedding ceremony in Mombasa, everything changed. Asha was a teacher from a modest family in Kisumu. She was beautiful, intelligent, and carried herself with the grace that comes from good upbringing. When Baraka brought Asha home to meet his mother, the meeting seemed perfect. Mama Wanjiku embraced the young woman warmly, speaking to her in Swahili mixed with English, the way educated African families do. "Karibu sana, my daughter," Mama Wanjiku said, holding Asha's hands. "Welcome to our family. I can see why my son loves you. You have a good heart, I can tell from your eyes." Asha was overwhelmed with relief. She had heard stories of difficult mothers-in-law, but Mama Wanjiku seemed like a blessing. "Thank you, Mama. I promise to take good care of Baraka and to honor you as my own mother." The traditional introduction ceremony was beautiful. Both families gathered in Mama Wanjiku's compound, which was decorated with banana leaves and colorful African fabrics. The elders performed the customary rites, and Asha's family presented the traditional gifts: goats, maize, and money for the bride price. Mama Wanjiku played her role perfectly, welcoming the gifts with gratitude and blessing the union. "Today I gain a daughter," she announced to the gathering. "Asha, you are now part of the Wanjiku family. Our traditions, our joys, our sorrows, they are all yours now." After the ceremony, Mama Wanjiku took Asha aside. "My daughter, I want you to know that I am here for you always. If my son ever gives you trouble, you come to me. If you need anything, you ask me. I have waited so long for a daughter-in-law, and now God has blessed me with you." Asha's eyes filled with tears of joy. "Mama, I feel so blessed to have you. My own mother died when I was young, and I have missed having a mother's guidance." "Well, now you have me," Mama Wanjiku said, hugging her tightly. "And I promise you, my child, I will never let anyone hurt you." The wedding was magnificent. The church was filled with relatives, friends, and neighbors. Asha looked radiant in her white wedding dress, while Baraka was handsome in his black suit. But what made the day special was seeing how proud Mama Wanjiku looked, sitting in the front row, wearing a beautiful African print dress that matched Asha's traditional outfit for the reception. During the reception, Mama Wanjiku gave a speech that moved everyone to tears. "Today I don't just gain a daughter-in-law, I gain a daughter of my heart. Asha has brought so much joy to our family already. I pray that God blesses their marriage with love, children, and prosperity." The early months of the marriage were blissful. Asha and Baraka lived in a small apartment in Westlands, but they spent every weekend at Mama Wanjiku's compound. Asha would help in the kitchen, learning to cook traditional Kikuyu dishes like mukimo and nyama choma. Mama Wanjiku would teach her about family history and traditions. "You must understand our ways, my daughter," Mama Wanjiku would say while they cooked together. "In our culture, the woman is the heart of the home. You must learn to make Baraka happy, to respect his decisions, and to understand that sometimes men need their space." Asha listened carefully, wanting to be the perfect daughter-in-law. She didn't notice how these conversations always somehow ended with advice that seemed to undermine her confidence or independence. "Baraka works so hard," Mama Wanjiku would continue. "You must not burden him with your problems. If you have concerns about money or anything else, you can talk to me instead. I will help you understand how to handle things properly." Slowly, Mama Wanjiku began to plant seeds of doubt. During their cooking sessions, she would make casual comments. "Asha, my daughter, I noticed Baraka seemed tired this morning. Have you been keeping him up late with talk about your school? You know men don't like too much chatter about work when they come home." "But Mama," Asha would protest gently, "we were just discussing the new curriculum changes." Baraka was interested. "Oh, my dear child," Mama Wanjiku would interrupt with a gentle laugh. "You are still learning about marriage. Trust me, I raised 3 sons. They may seem interested, but deep down, they want peace at home. Try to talk less about your job and more about his needs." These conversations began to affect Asha. She started second-guessing herself, wondering if she was being too talkative, too demanding, too independent. When Baraka would come home tired, instead of sharing her day as they used to, she would remain quiet, thinking she was being a better wife. Baraka noticed the change, but couldn't understand it. "Asha, you seem different lately, more distant. Is everything okay?" "I'm fine," Asha would reply, remembering Mama Wanjiku's advice about not burdening her husband with her concerns. "Just tired from work. Can you see how perfectly Mama Wanjiku's manipulation is working? Asha doesn't even realize she's being controlled. If this psychological manipulation is giving you chills, smash that like button. Have you ever seen someone manipulated like this? Drop your thoughts below." Meanwhile, Mama Wanjiku was working on a different strategy with her son. During their regular Saturday morning talks, she would express subtle concerns about Asha. "Baraka, my son, I hope you're happy with your marriage," she would begin carefully. "Of course, Mama. Asha is wonderful." "Why would you ask that?" "Oh, nothing serious. It's just that Asha seems, how can I put it, very focused on her career. I worry that she might not be ready for the responsibilities of being a wife and future mother." "What do you mean, Mama?" "Well, last week when she was here, I suggested she might want to consider having children soon, and she said she wanted to establish herself at the school first. In our culture, children are a blessing that should not be delayed." Baraka frowned. This was the first he'd heard of such a conversation. "Mama, we've discussed it, and we both want to wait a year or 2. "I see," Mama Wanjiku said, looking disappointed. "I just pray that when the time comes, she will be ready to put family before career. Your father, God rest his soul, always said that a woman who loves her career more than her family is not ready for marriage." These seeds of doubt began to grow in Baraka's mind. He started to notice things that hadn't bothered him before. How Asha would grade papers in the evening. How she would talk enthusiastically about her students. How she would sometimes work late for school events. The situation escalated when Asha was offered a promotion to head teacher at her school. She was excited and wanted to celebrate with Baraka, but when she told him, his reaction was cold. "Don't you think you should have discussed this with me first before accepting?" he asked. Asha was confused. "But Baraka, we've always supported each other's careers. This is a great opportunity for me. That was before we were married. Things are different now. My mother has been worried that you're too focused on work. Maybe she's right. Your mother said that. Asha felt a stab of hurt and betrayal. The argument that followed was their first real fight. Baraka accused Asha of being selfish and career-obsessed. Asha felt attacked and misunderstood. They didn't speak for 3 days. During this time, Mama Wanjiku called Asha. "My daughter, I heard you and Baraka had a disagreement. I'm so sorry. Men can be difficult sometimes. Mama, did you tell Baraka that I'm too focused on my career?" "Oh, my child, I think there was a misunderstanding. I only expressed concern because I love you both. I worry that with such a demanding job you might not have time for the important things, like giving me grandchildren. But Mama, we plan to wait. I know. But sometimes God's timing is different from our timing. And honestly, Asha, I've noticed that Baraka has been stressed lately. He needs a wife who can be fully present for him." The conversation left Asha feeling guilty and confused. She began to doubt herself even more. Was she being selfish? Was her career ambition hurting her marriage? The final blow came 6 months later. Mama Wanjiku told Baraka that she had overheard Asha on the phone with a female colleague, laughing about traditional African expectations and saying that she wasn't going to be controlled by outdated customs. This conversation had never happened, but Baraka didn't know that. He confronted Asha angrily, accusing her of disrespecting his family and culture. "How can you mock our traditions, Asha? This is who I am, who we are." "I never said any such thing," Asha protested, tears streaming down her face. "Baraka, you know me. I would never disrespect our culture or your family. But the damage was done. The trust between them was broken. Arguments became frequent. Baraka started staying late at work to avoid going home. Asha withdrew into herself, hurt by what she perceived as her husband's lack of trust and her mother-in-law's betrayal. The final confrontation happened during a family gathering. Mama Wanjiku had invited several relatives to celebrate her birthday. During the celebration, she made a speech that seemed innocent, but was calculated to humiliate Asha. "I want to thank all my children for being here today," she said, looking around the room. "I'm especially grateful to my sons for bringing joy to my life. And to my daughters-in-law." She paused, looking directly at Asha. "I pray that they will learn to embrace our family traditions fully and put family before personal ambitions." The room fell silent. Everyone understood the pointed reference. Asha felt humiliated and exposed. She excused herself and went outside to cry. Baraka found her there. Instead of comforting her, he was angry. "Asha, you're embarrassing me in front of my family. Why can't you just apologize to my mother and try to get along?" "Apologize for what?" Asha asked in disbelief. "For working hard? For having dreams? For being the woman you fell in love with? For disrespecting my family? For putting your career before our marriage?" That night they had their final fight. Asha packed her bags and left. The divorce papers were filed 3 months later. Mama Wanjiku comforted her son during this difficult time. "I'm sorry it didn't work out, my son. But perhaps it's for the best. You deserve a woman who will put family first." But privately, she smiled with satisfaction. Her plan had worked perfectly. 2 years later, Django, the middle son, fell in love with Amina, a nurse from Dar es Salaam who had moved to Nairobi for work. Amina was kind, hard-working, and deeply committed to helping others. She worked long hours at Kenyatta Hospital, often staying late to care for patients. When Django brought Amina to meet Mama Wanjiku, the older woman was charm itself. "What a beautiful daughter God has sent me," she exclaimed, embracing Amina warmly. "A nurse! How wonderful! You must have such a caring heart." Amina was immediately drawn to Mama Wanjiku's warmth. Having lost her own mother at a young age, she craved the maternal affection that Mama Wanjiku seemed to offer so freely. "Mama, I've heard so much about you from Django. He speaks of you with such love and respect. And he has told me wonderful things about you, my daughter. I can see why he loves you. You have the gentle spirit that makes a good wife. The pattern repeated itself, but this time Mama Wanjiku refined her approach. She had learned from her experience with Asha. Instead of directly criticizing Amina's career, she focused on other tactics. During the traditional introduction ceremony, Mama Wanjiku welcomed Amina's family with great ceremony. The celebration was even more elaborate than Baraka's wedding, with traditional Kikuyu dancers and a feast that lasted all day. Today, our families become one, Mama Wanjiku announced. Amina brings honor to our family with her profession. She saves lives. What could be more noble? Everyone was impressed by Mama Wanjiku's speech and her apparent pride in her new daughter-in-law's career. The early months of Django and Amina's marriage were happy. But Mama Wanjiku was patient. She waited, watched, and planned. Her opportunity came when Amina started working night shifts at the hospital. Mama Wanjiku began calling Django during these nights, expressing concern. My son, I worry about you being alone so often. Marriage should bring companionship, not loneliness. Mama, Amina's work is important. She's saving lives. Of course. I admire her dedication. But I also worry about you. And honestly, I worry about her too. A woman walking around Nairobi at all hours. It's not safe. And what kind of life is this for a married woman? Gradually, Mama Wanjiku began planting different seeds of doubt. She focused on Amina's independence and the time she spent away from home. In our culture, she would tell Django, a wife's first responsibility is to her husband and home. I'm not saying Amina doesn't love you, but these modern women sometimes get confused about priorities. She also began working on Amina, but more subtly. During their visits, she would make comments about how tired Django looked, how he seemed lonely, how hard it must be for him to have dinner alone so often. My daughter, I know your work is important, but you must also think about your husband's needs. A man needs his wife's presence, her warmth in the home. Amina began to feel guilty about her work schedule. She started trading shifts to be home more often, which affected her performance at work and strained her relationships with colleagues. Mama Wanjiku's masterstroke came when she told Django that she had heard rumors at church about Amina being seen having coffee with a male colleague from the hospital. I'm sure it's innocent. My son, she said with feigned concern. But people are talking. They're saying she's been seen with this doctor several times. I told them it must be work-related, but you know how people gossip. This doctor was actually a male nurse who was part of Amina's work team, and their meetings were indeed about work. But Mama Wanjiku's description made it sound suspicious. Django confronted Amina about it, and she was shocked by his jealousy and suspicion. Their relationship began to deteriorate as trust eroded. The final blow came when Mama Wanjiku claimed that Amina had been disrespectful to her at church. She told Django that Amina had ignored her greeting and had been whispering with her friends while looking in her direction. I don't want to cause trouble between you and your wife, she said tearfully, but I felt so humiliated. Everyone saw how she treated me. Amina was devastated when Django confronted her about this.
Django, I was working that Sunday.
I wasn't even at church. How could I have ignored your mother? But Django was already so filled with doubt and resentment that he didn't believe her. You're lying to me now, Amina. My mother would never make up such a story. Their marriage ended after 18 months. Amina moved back to Tanzania, heartbroken and confused about what had gone wrong. Again, Mama Wanjiku comforted her son. I'm sorry, my child. But perhaps this is God's way of protecting you. You deserve a wife who will respect our family. Privately, she felt another surge of satisfaction. 2 down, 1 to go. Faraji, the youngest son, was the most careful of the 3 brothers. He had watched his brothers' marriages fail, and was determined not to make the same mistakes. When he fell in love with Zeinab, a marketing executive from a well-to-do family in Nakuru, he was cautious about introducing her to his mother. Zeinab was confident, articulate, and came from a family that valued education and success. She had her own apartment, her own car, and a thriving career. She was also the most perceptive of the three women. From their first meeting, Zeinab sensed something was off about Mama Wanjiku. The older woman's compliments seemed calculated, her questions felt intrusive, and her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Django seems very close to his mother, Zeinab observed to Faraji after their first visit. Yes, he is. We all are. Family is very important in our culture. Of course. I just noticed how involved she seems to be in your brothers' lives. Faraji became defensive. What do you mean by that? Nothing bad. It's just that both your brothers got divorced. And I noticed how your mother had opinions about both their wives. My mother loved both Asha and Amina. She was heartbroken when those marriages failed. But Zeinab's comment planted a seed of awareness in Faraji's mind. For the first time, he began to really think about the pattern of his brother's failed marriages. Mama Wanjiku sensed that Zeinab would be more challenging than the previous two women. She decided to change her strategy entirely. Instead of trying to manipulate Zeinab directly, she focused on making her feel unwelcome and unwanted. During family gatherings, Mama Wanjiku would make subtle comments that excluded Zeinab. "We Kikuyu people have a saying," she would begin, then launch into some traditional wisdom, always looking around the room but never at Zeinab. As if she weren't part of the we, she would ask pointed questions about Zeinab's family background, her education, her career goals, always with a tone that suggested criticism rather than interest. "So, Zeinab, your parents educated you well. Sometimes I wonder if we modern parents are doing our children a disservice by giving them too much education. It can make them forget their traditional roles." Zeinab would respond calmly, but she felt the barb in every comment. Mama Wanjiku also began sharing stories about Asha and Amina during these visits, painting them as examples of what happens when women put career before family. "Poor Asha," she would sigh dramatically. "So focused on her teaching job that she forgot how to be a wife. And Amina, always at that hospital, never home to cook for my son. I tried to guide them, but some women just can't accept motherly advice." Zeinab began to understand what had likely happened to the previous wives. She decided to test her theory. One evening, she asked Faraji about his brother's marriages. What exactly went wrong with Baraka and Asha? They seemed so happy at first. Faraji repeated the stories his mother had told him, that Asha was too career-focused, that she disrespected the family traditions, that she mocked African customs. Zeinab listened carefully and then asked, "Did you ever hear Asha say these things yourself? Or did your mother tell you about them?" The question made Faraji uncomfortable. "Why does it matter who told me? My mother wouldn't lie. I'm not saying she would lie. I'm just trying to understand what really happened." That night, Zeinab couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the pattern she saw. 3 successful sons, 3 intelligent, accomplished women, 3 failed marriages, and 1 common factor, Mama Wanjiku. She decided to do something bold. The next day, she called Asha. It took some detective work to find Asha's number, but Zeinab was persistent. When she finally reached her, the conversation was revelatory. "Asha, this is Zeinab. I'm engaged to Faraji, Django's youngest brother." There was a long pause. "Oh," Asha said quietly. "I'm sorry." "Sorry? Why?" "Because if you're calling me, it means the pattern is repeating itself." "What pattern?" Asha hesitated, then began to tell her story. She described how Mama Wanjiku had initially been welcoming, then gradually undermining, how she had planted doubts in Baraka's mind, how she had twisted innocent situations into evidence of Asha's failings. She made me doubt myself, Asha said. I started believing that maybe I was a bad wife, that maybe I was too selfish, too career-focused. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. Baraka wouldn't listen to me anymore. Zeinab felt sick to her stomach. Did you ever try to tell Baraka what his mother was doing? I tried, but who was he going to believe? His beloved mother or his wife? Especially when she was so clever about it. She never said anything directly harsh. It was all subtle, all concern and advice and observations. After hanging up, Zeinab called Amina. The conversation was eerily similar. Amina described the same pattern of initial acceptance followed by gradual undermining, the same subtle criticisms, the same way Mama Wanjiku had turned Django against her. She's very good at what she does, Amina said bitterly. Very patient, very clever. And she always makes herself look like the victim or the concerned mother-in-law. Armed with this knowledge, Zeinab decided to be proactive. She began documenting every interaction with Mama Wanjiku, noting the subtle insults, the manipulative comments, the way she would make Zeinab feel unwelcome while maintaining plausible deniability. She also began planting her own seeds of awareness with Faraji. Instead of directly accusing his mother, she would ask questions that made him think. It's interesting how both your brothers' wives were described as career-obsessed, she would observe casually. I wonder if that's really the issue, or if it's something else. What do you mean? Well, I've met both Asha and Amina through mutual friends. They seem like lovely women who genuinely love their husbands. It just seems strange that they both supposedly had the same flaws. Gradually, Faraji began to see patterns he had never noticed before. He remembered conversations where his mother had expressed concerns about his brother's wives, how those concerns always seemed to escalate over time, how the problems in the marriages always seemed to center around issues his mother had identified. The breakthrough came when Mama Wanjiku made a critical error. During a family dinner, she was telling a story about something Amina had supposedly done, but she mixed up details. From her stories about Asha and Amina, she described Amina as making comments about traditional marriage roles, something she had claimed Asha had, said Zeinab noticed immediately and pointed it out. Mama, I thought you said it was Asha who made those comments about traditional roles, not Amina. Mama Wanjiku looked flustered for a moment, then recovered. Oh, they both said similar things. It's hard to keep track of all their complaints about our culture, but the damage was done. Faraji had seen the momentary confusion, the quick recovery, the way his mother had caught herself in an inconsistency. That night, he asked Zeinab about it. Did you notice anything strange about my mother's story tonight? Yes, Zeinab said carefully. She seemed to mix up some details. It was more than that. I've been thinking about what you said, about the patterns. Zeinab, I'm starting to wonder if she's been interfering in my brother's marriages. It was a painful realization for Faraji. The woman he had loved and trusted his entire life might have deliberately destroyed his brother's happiness. What should we do? He asked. Zeinab had been thinking about this for weeks. I think we need to confront her. But carefully, and with evidence. They decided to set a trap. Zeinab would confide in Mama Wanjiku about a fictional problem in their relationship, something that would give the older woman an opportunity to manipulate the situation. They would record the conversation. The plan worked perfectly. When Zeinab told Mama Wanjiku that she and Faraji had been arguing about having children, a complete fabrication, Mama Wanjiku immediately began her manipulation tactics. Oh, my daughter, this is very concerning, she said, her voice full of fake sympathy. Men need to feel that their wives are ready for motherhood. If Faraji senses that you're not ready for children, he might start to doubt your commitment to the marriage. She went on to suggest that Zeinab should apologize to Faraji for being difficult about children, that she should show more submission, and that she should consider whether her career was making her too independent for marriage. You know, she added conspiratorially, I tried to help Asha and Amina understand these things, but they were too proud to listen. They thought they knew better than someone who had been married for 30 years. Look how their marriages ended. The conversation continued for an hour, with Mama Wanjiku revealing more and more of her true feelings and methods. She admitted to having concerns about both previous wives, to having tried to help the sons see their wives' flaws, and to being disappointed when the women refused to change. Most damaging of all, she let slip that she had sometimes shared observations with her sons about their wives' behavior. Observations that, as Zeinab now understood, were often fabricated or grossly distorted. When Faraji heard the recording, he was devastated. She destroyed their marriages, he said, his voice hollow with shock. She deliberately, systematically destroyed their marriages. The question now, Zeinab said gently, is what are we going to do about it? They decided to confront Mama Wanjiku together, but also to invite Baraka and Jengo to the confrontation. The brothers needed to know the truth about what had happened to their marriages. The family meeting took place on a Sunday afternoon in Mama Wanjiku's compound. All three sons were present, along with Zeinab. Mama Wanjiku was in a good mood, pleased to have all her children together. It's so good to see my boys, she said warmly, and my future daughter-in-law. We should have family gatherings more often. Faraji took a deep breath. Mama, we need to talk to you about something serious. The change in his tone immediately put her on alert. What is it, my son? It's about Baraka's marriage to Asha and Jengo's marriage to Amina. What about them? Those marriages failed because those women weren't suitable wives. No, Mama, Faraji said firmly. Those marriages failed because you sabotaged them. The silence in the room was deafening. Mama Wanjiku's face went through a series of expressions: shock, hurt, anger, and finally calculation. How can you say such a terrible thing about your own mother? She asked, her voice trembling with apparent emotion. I love those girls like my own daughters. I tried everything to help those marriages succeed. Did you? Zeinab spoke for the first time, because I have some recordings that suggest otherwise. She played portions of their conversation, the parts where Mama Wanjiku had revealed her manipulation tactics and her true feelings about the previous wives. As the recordings played, the expressions on Baraka and Jengo's faces changed from confusion to shock to anger. They were hearing their mother describe how she had helped them see their wives' flaws, how she had shared observations about their behavior, how she had tried to guide them toward better understanding of their wives' problems. When the recording ended, the room was silent except for the sound of Jengo crying. You lied to me, Baraka said, his voice barely above a whisper. You made me believe that Asha didn't respect our family. You made me distrust my own wife, and you turned me against Amina, Jengo added, his voice choked with emotion. She loved me and I threw it away because I believed your lies. Mama Wanjiku tried to defend herself. Everything I did was for your own good. Those women weren't right for you. Asha was too independent, too Western. Amina was never home, always working. They wouldn't have made you happy. That wasn't your decision to make, Baraka shouted, his composure finally breaking. You had no right to interfere in our marriages. No right to lie to us. I'm your mother. I know what's best for you. No, Faraji said quietly but firmly. A mother who truly loves her children wants them to be happy. You didn't want us to be happy. You wanted us to be alone so that you could remain the most important woman in our lives. The confrontation continued for hours. Mama Wanjiku alternated between denying the evidence justifying her actions and trying to emotionally manipulate her sons into forgiveness. "How can you turn against me like this?" she cried. "I sacrificed everything for you boys. I never remarried after your father died because I wanted to focus on raising you. And this is how you repay me." But her sons were no longer listening to her manipulation. The scales had fallen from their eyes, and they could see clearly for the first time how their mother had controlled and manipulated them throughout their adult lives. The immediate aftermath was painful for everyone. Baraka and Django were devastated to realize that they had lost loving wives because of their mother's lies. They both tried to reach out to their ex-wives, but the damage was too deep. Asha was now married to someone else and pregnant with her first child. Amina had moved back to Tanzania and wanted nothing to do with the family that had caused her so much pain. "I'm sorry," Baraka told Asha during their phone conversation. "I'm so sorry for not trusting you, for believing the lies, for not protecting our marriage." Asha's response was gracious but firm. "I forgive you, Baraka, but forgiveness doesn't mean we can go back. Too much damage was done. I hope you find happiness, but it won't be with me." Django's conversation with Amina was similar. She was kind but clear that their chapter was closed forever. As for Faraji and Zeinab, they faced a difficult decision about their own relationship with Mama Wanjiku. They decided to proceed with their marriage, but with clear boundaries about his mother's involvement in their lives. "She will always be my mother," Faraji told Zeinab, "but she will never again be allowed to interfere in our marriage. If she can't respect our boundaries, she won't be part of our lives." The wedding was small and private. Mama Wanjiku was invited, but only as a guest, not as the honored mother-in-law she had expected to be. She attended but sat quietly in the back, her power over her sons finally broken. During the reception, an elderly woman approached Zeinab. It was Mrs. Mukami, a longtime neighbor of Mama Wanjiku's family. "My daughter," she said quietly, "I want you to know that you did a brave thing. I have watched that woman destroy her son's happiness for years, but no one could prove what she was doing." "You knew?" Zeinab asked, surprised. "Many of us suspected." She was too quick to find fault with every woman her sons brought home, too eager to share concerns about their wives. But she was clever about it, never anything that could be proven, always dressed up as maternal concern. "Why didn't anyone say anything?" Mrs. Mukami sighed. "Who would have believed us?" She had her sons completely under her control, and in our culture it's very difficult to speak against a mother, even when she's wrong. The revelation that others had suspected Mama Wanjiku's behavior was both validating and heartbreaking. It meant that Asha and Amina's suffering could have been prevented if someone had spoken up sooner. In the months that followed, the family slowly began to heal from the damage that had been done. Baraka and Django started therapy to deal with their guilt and to learn how to recognize manipulative behavior. They also worked on rebuilding their relationship with each other and with Faraji, bonds that had been strained by years of their mother's divide-and-conquer tactics. Faraji and Zeinab's marriage thrived under the new circumstances. Without Mama Wanjiku's constant interference and manipulation, they were free to build their relationship on trust, communication, and mutual respect. When they announced that they were expecting their first child, there was joy in the family, but also sadness for the grandchildren that Baraka and Django might have had with their first wives. Mama Wanjiku struggled to accept her reduced role in her sons' lives. She tried various tactics to regain control: guilt trips, health scares, attempts to turn the brothers against each other again. But her sons had learned to recognize these patterns and refuse to be manipulated. "Mama," Faraji told her during one of her attempts to create drama, "we love you, but we won't allow you to control our lives anymore. If you want to be part of our family, You need to respect our boundaries and stop trying to manipulate us. The hardest part for the brothers was explaining the situation to their extended family and community. In African culture, respect for elders, especially mothers, is paramount. Many relatives couldn't understand how the sons could turn against their mother. "She raised you boys alone," Uncle Kamau, Mama Wanjiku's brother, argued during a family meeting. "She sacrificed everything for you. How can you treat her this way over some failed marriages?" "Uncle," Baraka replied patiently, "we're not disrespecting her because of failed marriages. We're setting boundaries because she deliberately sabotaged our marriages. There's a difference between honoring your mother and allowing her to destroy your happiness." Some family members chose to believe Mama Wanjiku's version of events, that she was a victim of ungrateful sons who had been poisoned against her by a manipulative daughter-in-law. Others, however, admitted that they had always found her behavior toward her sons' wives concerning. "I remember at Asha's wedding, Aunt and Jerry confided to Baraka, 'Your mother made a comment about hoping Asha would learn her place quickly. I thought it was strange at the time, but I didn't want to cause trouble by saying anything.'" The community's reaction was mixed. Some people supported the brothers' decision to confront their mother's behavior, recognizing that emotional manipulation is a form of abuse regardless of who perpetrates it. Others felt that the sons were being disrespectful and that family problems should be handled privately. Pastor Waweru, who had officiated at both Baraka and Jengo's weddings, requested a meeting with the family. "I've been thinking about those marriages," he said. "I remember counseling both couples, and they seemed so committed to each other. I was surprised when the marriages ended. Now I'm wondering if I missed signs of outside interference." The pastor's acknowledgement was important to the brothers. It validated their experience and helped them feel less isolated in their decision to confront their mother's behavior. As time passed, Mama Wanjiku's isolation from her sons began to take its toll on her. She had defined herself entirely through her role as their mother, and without their constant attention and dependence, she struggled to find meaning in her life. She tried to find sympathy from other women in the community, portraying herself as a victim of ungrateful children. But as word spread about what had really happened, many people began to see her differently. "She came to me crying about how her sons had abandoned her," said Mama Grace, a longtime friend. "But then I remembered how she used to talk about their wives, always finding something wrong with them. I started to wonder if there was more to the story." Mama Wanjiku's attempts to gain sympathy often backfired because she couldn't resist making subtle criticisms of her former daughters-in-law, even while claiming to have loved them. These contradictions made people question her version of events. 2 years after the confrontation, something unexpected happened. Mama Wanjiku fell seriously ill with diabetes complications and was hospitalized. Despite everything she had done, her sons rallied around her, taking turns staying at the hospital and ensuring she received the best care. "Why are you helping me?" she asked Faraji during one of his visits. "I thought you hated me." "We don't hate you, Mama," he replied sadly. "We love you. That's why it hurt so much when we realized what you had done. We wanted you to be the mother we thought you were. I was trying to protect you," she said weakly. "I didn't want you to be hurt by the wrong women. But you ended up hurting us more than any woman ever could," Jengo said from the doorway. He had arrived for his shift at the hospital. "You taught us to distrust our own judgment, to doubt the women we loved. That damage will take years to heal." During her recovery, Mama Wanjiku had time to reflect on her actions and their consequences. She began to see how her need to control her sons had ultimately driven them away from her and cost them their happiness. In a moment of clarity, she asked to speak to all 3 sons together. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to admit what I did, and I need to try to explain why. What followed was the first honest conversation the family had ever had about Mama Wanjiku's behavior. She admitted to deliberately sabotaging her sons' marriages, to lying about their wives' behavior, and to manipulating situations to create conflict. "I was so afraid of losing you," she confessed through tears. "After your father died, you boys were all I had. When you started bringing women home, I felt like they were taking you away from me. I couldn't bear the thought of being replaced in your lives. But we never wanted to replace you," Baraka said gently. "We wanted to expand our family, to include wives and children alongside you." "I know that now," she replied. "But at the time, all I could see was that you didn't need me anymore. I felt like I was becoming invisible, unimportant, so I convinced myself that these women weren't good for you, that I was protecting you from making mistakes." The conversation was painful but necessary. It didn't excuse Mama Wanjiku's behavior, but it helped her sons understand the fear and insecurity that had driven her actions. "I can't undo what I did," she continued. "I can't bring back Asha and Amina or repair those marriages. But I want you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the pain I caused you, for the wives you lost, for the grandchildren I'll never meet because of my selfishness." The apology was a start, but rebuilding trust would take much longer. The sons agreed to maintain a relationship with their mother, but with strict boundaries. She would be involved in their lives, but she would never again be allowed to interfere in their relationships. As part of her recovery process, Mama Wanjiku agreed to attend counseling. The therapist helped her understand how her behavior had been emotionally abusive, and taught her healthier ways to maintain relationships with her adult children. "Control born from fear is not love," the therapist explained. "Real love means wanting your children to be happy, even if their happiness doesn't revolve around you." It was a difficult lesson for Mama Wanjiku to learn. She had been raised in a generation where parents, especially mothers, were expected to have significant influence over their children's major life decisions. Learning to step back and allow her sons to make their own choices, even when she disagreed with them, required a fundamental shift in her worldview. Meanwhile, Faraji and Zeinab's marriage continued to flourish. They welcomed their first child, a daughter they named Wanjiku, honoring the family name while creating new, positive associations with it. Mama Wanjiku was allowed to be involved in her granddaughter's life, but always under supervision and with clear boundaries. "I want her to know her grandmother," Zeinab explained to her friends, "but I also want to protect her from the manipulation that destroyed her uncle's marriages." Baraka eventually remarried, this time to a woman named Rahima who was aware of the family history and comfortable with the boundaries that had been established. Django also found love again with Saida, a doctor who appreciated his honesty about his past and his commitment to never allowing outside interference in their relationship. Both new wives were welcomed into the family, but the dynamics were very different from the previous marriages. Mama Wanjiku was polite but distant, and the women were careful to maintain their independence and not rely too heavily on her approval or acceptance. The story of the family's experience spread through their community, becoming a cautionary tale about the dangers of parental over-involvement in adult children's relationships. It also sparked important conversations about emotional manipulation and the need to recognize and address abusive behavior, even when it comes from family members. What happened to this family could happen to anyone, Pastor Wawaru said during a sermon about healthy family relationships. "We must remember that love is not control, and protecting someone is not the same as manipulating them." Some members of the community began sharing their own stories of over-involved parents or in-laws who had caused problems in their marriages. The family's courage in confronting the issue gave others permission to address similar problems in their own lives. Years later, As Mama Wanjiku watched her sons with their new families, she felt a complex mixture of regret and acceptance. She would never have the close, controlling relationship with them that she had once enjoyed. But she could see that they were happier now. "I wasted so many years fighting against their happiness," she confided to her counselor. "I could have had daughters-in-law who loved me, grandchildren who knew me well, sons who trusted me completely. Instead, I chose fear and control, and I lost almost everything." The therapist nodded. "But you still have the opportunity to be a positive presence in their lives now. The question is, will you choose love or will you choose fear?" It was a choice Mama Wanjiku had to make every day. Some days were easier than others. Sometimes she still felt the urge to offer unsolicited advice, to criticize her son's choices, to try to assert control over situations that weren't hers to control. But she had learned to recognize these impulses and to step back instead of acting on them. The family's story didn't have a perfect ending. The trust that had been broken would never be fully restored, and the marriages that had been destroyed could never be rebuilt. But it was a story of growth, of learning, and of the possibility of change, even in the most difficult circumstances. For Asha and Amina, wherever they were now, the vindication came too late to save their marriages, but perhaps it brought them some peace to know that the truth had finally been revealed. Their suffering had not been in vain if it prevented other women from experiencing the same manipulation and betrayal. And for future generations of the family, the story served as a powerful reminder that love must be freely given and received, that trust once broken is difficult to rebuild, and that the most dangerous enemies are sometimes those who claim to love us most. As Mama Wanjiku held her granddaughter for the first time under Zeinab's watchful eye, she whispered a promise. "I will do better by you, little one. I will love you without trying to control you. I will support your choices even when I don't understand them. I will be the grandmother you deserve, not the one my fear would make me." It was a promise she would spend the rest of her life trying to keep, knowing that the cost of breaking it would be the loss of her family's love forever. The secret that had destroyed 3 marriages was finally out, but its effects would ripple through the family for generations to come. It was a reminder that the wounds we inflict on those we claim to love can last far longer than we ever imagine, and that the price of control is often the very love we're trying to preserve. In the end, Mama Wanjiku's secret had taught her sons, their wives, and their community a valuable lesson, that true love requires trust, respect, and the courage to let go, even when letting go feels like losing everything. The end, dear viewers. What lessons did you take away from this powerful tale of family, betrayal, and redemption? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give us a thumbs up, share it with others who might benefit from this message, and subscribe to our channel for more African tales that explore the complexities of modern family life. Remember to turn on notifications so you never miss our latest stories. Thank you for watching, and may your own family relationships be built on trust, honesty, and genuine love.